Hello there. Thank you for joining into the second video of this series, Mastering K3s Cluster on Raspberry Pi. Here I'll show you how to prepare Raspbian OS for K3s installation alongside explanation of each and every config being done into the config.txt. Stay tuned. Alrighty then, to get started with, we need to have following softwares installed. The first would be SD card formatter for cleansing of SD cards. I'll be using 32 gigs for Master Node and 16 gigs for Slave Node. And the second software is gonna be Raspberry Pi Imager. This will help us write OS to the disk. I'm gonna format the SD cards so that they are ready for OS install. All right, that's done. Now let's select the operating system for Master Node, and it's going to be Raspbian 64-bit with desktop environment installed. And for that, we'll go to Choose OS, Raspberry Pi OS Other, and it's going to be Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit with desktop. We'll choose the storage, and that's my E drive that shows 29 gigs, basically 32. That's there. I'll hit right. That's underway. Let's start one more Raspberry Pi Imager instance that will help us write image to the second SD card. That's for Slave node, and it's gonna be the Raspbian OS 64 bits with no desktop environment. Right now, we'll allow the OS imagers to take its sweet little time to finish on both master and slave images. The write is done. Let's insert the SD cards to Raspberry Pis and let them boot. And by letting them boot, we are allowing OS or the system to write necessary config files to the SD cards, which will be available to us for the change. All right, my Raspberry Pis are booting up. We'll allow it a minute or so that it's able to get booted properly and is able to write its config files to the SD card. We'll wait for some time and we'll get back with the editing of the config files. Our Raspberry Pis have booted up, so let's do SSH onto those nodes. And for that, I'll be using Windows Terminal. Left side would be my master node, and on the right side, I'll keep my slave node. And the master node IP was set up to 65. And the default password would be Raspberry. Let me retype it. Oh, my caps lock was on. All right, I'm in. Let me be root. All right, I'm in Raspberry Pi Master Node. Let me log in to Slave. All right, I'm root in Slave 2. Now, one thing to notice is the host name is still Raspberry Pi. Not an issue. We'll quickly fix it. And also, we need IP tables to be running in these hosts so that K3s runs properly. So let's quickly first K3s requirement, that's IP tables, and we'll go with okay, IP tables not found. Let's quickly install it. Do the same on slave. All right, now that iptables is installed, we should be able to run our first command, iptables-f. Now second, we'll enable legacy mode of iptables. That's there. Same on slave node. All right, now let's modify the host names, and for that we'll use raspi-config. Go to system options, host name. We'll give it ipmaster. Okay, and we'll finish and give it a reboot. That's underway. We'll do the same for slave node 2. It would be ipslave1. Since we'll be adding more in future, we'll give it an identification name of 1. Yep, the reboots are underway. Let's wait for the pies to come up, and the master is up. Let's SSH again. All right, I'm in slave 1, but somehow I'm not being able to SSH onto master. Let me do a power cycle. We'll wait for 65 to come up. That's my master. Yeah, that's up. Let's try SSHing. It doesn't allow me to kill the ping. I'll use new session. Right. Yep, I'm in. Let me be root on both. Now that the host names have been changed, I see ipmaster and I see ipslave. We are ready for installing K3s. Let's first install K3s Master Node onto the ipmaster host. And for that, the command would be this. That's there. We'll wait for some time so that the installation succeeds, hopefully. And after that, we'll check the status of the K3s service. All right, the installation is about to be done. Let's wait for it to finish. All right, that should be it. Let's check the status of the K3s service. All right, it's active and running, so we are good at the master's end. Let's see what we got. kubectl is the binary which gets installed with K3s, which is used for managing pods, nodes, and everything in Kubernetes cluster, K3s cluster. So let's quickly get the number of nodes. And nodes are basically the hosts in the cluster. So I would have, for now, one, that is the master itself. The first time it does take a bit of time, maybe some configuration it does in the backend. All right, there we go. It's ipmaster ready, and it's the master in roles. So now what we'll do is we'll move to the next section of adding node to this master. And for that, we do need to copy a token. And yes, we have the token now. Using it, our Raspberry Pi slave would get itself registered to the K3s master. And the URL would be 65, that's correct. Now we are good to copy this command and run it on the slave node. All right, that's underway. We'll issue a watch command to continuously monitor the number of nodes. All right, for now it's 1. Let's wait for slave node 1 to join in. All right, it's done. The K3s agent has started, and we should be seeing the slave node here anytime now. We'll just wait for a few more seconds. Yep, there you see, Raspberry Pi slave 1 is registered. It's currently not ready status. It will soon change to ready. Yep, that's there. It is ready. Now we don't need the slave node session. Let me kill it and let's see what have we got. Let's first get the namespaces. These are the namespaces which we are dealing with, and by default everything gets installed in kube system. So let's get the pods running in that namespace. Yep, there we have it. A completely functional and running Kubernetes K3s cluster. We have traffic as a load balancer, service LB as an internal service load balancer, Helm, I think Helm here install traffic. That's why it's in a completed state. Okay, that's there. Metric server for Prometheus, CoreDNS, and there you have it. A completely functional K3s cluster. I hope you are successful in creating your own K3s cluster too now. And if in case you faced any challenges or have any issues ongoing and you are unable to somehow not resolve, you can leave me a comment in the chat box and I can try my level best to address that. Thank you for having patience and thank you for joining in. See you on the next video. where I will show how to enable traffic dashboard, that's the load balancers dashboard, and deploy a simple Who Am I application. Thank you.